Hello, everyone. We are so excited that you're here. We know it has been an extremely busy Q4 after the holidays, and with market season in full swing, with trade shows happening all over the world, and Faire Market around the corner, we are very grateful for your time today. I'm Sarah, and I lead our customer marketing team here at Faire, specifically focused on our brand community, making sure that you all feel really connected with how you can meet your goals using tools and strategies with wholesale and Faire to get there. Today, I'm excited to be joined by an amazing cast of folks, including myself, Kieran Shergill from the brand growth team based in the UK, in addition to two amazing guest experts. We have Kyle Erickson, who is the VP of Marketing from the brand Totally Bamboo, and we have Kristin Fisher, who is also joining us as a retail strategy expert. So an amazing cast here today, and really excited to get started and have you all focused on markets. So for those of you who this is your first time joining a Level Up webinar, how it generally works is this is a way for you to level up some of your basic foundational skills one more level when it comes to wholesale strategies. And we really want to make sure that you have the ideas and tools to get there. In terms of recording, we will be recording this session, so do not fret. We will send the recording to you as well as any resources afterward as well. In terms of questions, you can see on the side panel, there's a Q&A function. Feel free to submit any questions that you have there, and we'll do our best to make sure that we can tackle as many questions as possible. We have an amazing team of other brand growth experts behind the scenes ready for your questions and eager to answer those for you. In terms of what is available to you beyond today's session, I wanted to make sure that you all had a reminder on all the resources that are there for you 24/7 whenever you need them. And I wanted to specifically highlight our brand new section, which we call learn.faire.com, hopefully easy to remember. And you can find this located within the blog, our Faire Learning Hub, or you can simply access it using that link directly. There you can find any webinar invitations, replays, and any how-to videos, etc. So highly recommend checking that out if you haven't yet. And today, what we'll be focused on is truly all things markets, whether that be Faire Market, trade shows, or working with sales reps. We want to make sure you feel really supported with that journey. Specifically, we're going to start with talking about retail buying insights. Then we'll dive into some of our top tools that we think that all folks should be using today when you're entering the market world. And then lastly, we'll spend the majority of our time talking with Kyle and Kristin about all of their expert tips and strategies. So it should be a really great conversation. And of course, throughout, we'll answer all of your questions through that chat function. And before we dive in, I want to do a quick reminder that we are officially at the 13-day countdown for Faire Market, which will start on January 21st with early access for our insider retailers on January 20th. So if you have not already set up your promotion, all you have to do to participate is set a shop-wide promotion during those dates, and we'll match up to 5%. For any other details, feel free to enter your event section of your brand portal, and you can find all the details there. With that in mind, I'm curious, across this crew, how are you approaching this Faire Market season this year? Is it Faire Market? Are you thinking about trade shows? Is it both? I'd love to understand. Amazing. It looks like we definitely have a lot of Faire Market participants, lots of Faire Market and trade shows. We are very busy bees in this audience, so you're in very good company and a lot of Faire Market experts. Amazing. Perfect. And so let's jump into the retail insight buying tips. We were able to dig into some research that we've had here at Faire across both retailers on Faire and also off Faire, to hopefully give you a little bit of a comprehensive view about what they're thinking about in this busy season. For a little bit of context, Faire has over 400,000 actively buying retailers, and we're continuing to grow month over month, year over year. And you might be interested to know that over half of those are traditional specialty buyers, and we're continuing to see a lot of growing segments across larger local franchises, grocery stores, service businesses like spas, cafes, etc., and also with new store owners, so folks who are new on the block, opening new storefronts where you can be a part of their initial curation. And in terms of how they're searching, the filters that they're using most, this is based on some more recent data, is really interesting. And there are some very clear themes, as you might see here. First and foremost, landed cost is extremely important. And you can see that coming through location. So with tariffs and other shipping details, all of those costs really factor into how people are making decisions. So based in, ships from, et cetera, and free shipping are all really important. Similarly, you can see that minimums are very important as well. And that is showing up through people wanting to be able to test new products and hoping for, I would say, reasonable minimums. Typically, we recommend $150 or lower in order to hit as many retailers as possible. However, this is very specific to your business, and we recommend doing what's best for you. In fact, when retailers were asked what would encourage them to increase their inventory spend, 73% of retailers said lower or free shipping thresholds. So evidence is certainly there that that is very important. So something to consider when prepping for the market season. And in terms of what influences their decision-making and trust, there are a few things that stand out. While all of these channels are extremely important, there are some that I think I wanted to highlight. The first being search engines. This continues to be the number one way that people are comparing and basically evaluating and researching. So making sure that you're relevant there is very important. Secondly, across all of our established retailers, so those who are investing the most in their curation, in their collection, in their buying, they are really relying on their retailers and peers to go ahead and make decisions and build trust in the brands that they're making decisions on. And then lastly, when it comes to AI search, as you might imagine, and unsurprisingly, this is growing more and more and more, especially across new retailers in terms of how they're going ahead and evaluating and making decisions. And ultimately, when it comes to what is worth the extra money, a few things stand out to our retailers when we ask them both on and off Faire. First being superior quality products. Second being exceptional customer service. So think of that as communication skills, on-time deliveries, clear shipping expectations, et cetera. And also when they do want it to be urgent, they're hoping that your lead time is accurate and your delivery is on time. And then secondly, things that might sway away a buyer or maybe it leads them to not complete that order is a lack of ability to place smaller test orders. If they're a smaller business, this really can mean a lot to them, in addition to what we talked about before with free shipping. And of course, net terms to preserve cash flow, which thankfully Faire is able to offer on your behalf through the retailer benefits of net 60 days. And a few little notes on trends. Here is what they're searching for today. So these are the hottest things that retailers are searching for across Valentine's Day, teas, reading, spring decor. People are already getting ready for Mardi Gras, chocolate, et cetera. So a few things to keep in mind when thinking about your product selection. And then lastly, we're really excited to share that the Faire forecast for 2026 will be launching this month. So really excited to be able to share that with all of you, and be sure to watch out for your Instagram to see what the trends are and learn a little bit more about what those might be. Great. And in terms of top market tools, let's dive in and talk a little bit more about our favorite things to use during a busy market season. So let's break down a few things when it comes to breaking down market season. In terms of the flow that we'll walk through today, one, we'll talk about shop readiness, so making sure that everything is good to go. Secondly, we'll talk about increasing visibility and how you can get as much traffic as possible. Thirdly, we'll talk about what to do during markets and tools you can use for that. And then lastly, we'll talk about what to do after the shows and how you can be set up for success for the long term. First and foremost, and this is something I really want to reiterate, do not skip this, is keeping your catalog fresh and optimized. What does that actually mean? It really means that you're having a complete and fresh catalog ready for retailers to review. And we actually see that those with a complete wholesale catalog see a 20% boost in overall conversion. So it really does matter. We also recommend updating any product listings to make sure that they're seasonally relevant and also SEO optimized. If you're not sure where to start for that, we highly recommend checking out our SEO checklist, which you can also find in the docs section of this specific webinar. Additionally, spotlighting bestsellers, new releases, and anything that's related to trends that I just showed you or seasonally is a really easy way to direct retailers to exactly what you want them to be looking at. And lastly, confirm operational details. So that means looking at lead times, that means examining shipping windows to make sure that you're having an accurate section for when you're actually having these high volume moments. So making sure that you're not having any late shipments. And then secondly, thinking about minimum order quantities and first order minimums like we talked about before. So now that you have this strong foundation built, how do you actually increase your visibility on Faire? So one of the ways to do it within the Faire platform is through promoted listings. Currently, this is available to our North American market, but we're hopefully excited to be able to bring that to our European folks in 2026. In terms of what promoted listings is, you can think of this as your wholesale advertising tool. It's really easy to set up. All you have to do is basically set a specific audience. You can do this with new customers or returning customers. Then you just set your spending limit and we'll do the rest for you. In general, on average, 70% of our brands who are using promoted listings are seeing a 70% increase in views on their products and search results in category pages. This is certainly significant, so we hope that you explore this. And now is a great time to think about experimenting with that budget, giving it a try, and launching your first specific campaign. Additionally, I recommend joining our webinar next week. We'll do a little plug for you in here as well to make sure if you have any other questions around promoted listings. And then lastly, in terms of what to do off of Faire, and that helps drive even more visibility and more traffic, our number one thing that we recommend is really making sure that your Faire Direct link is embedded within your website. What does that mean and how can you do that? Good questions. So you can do that by either having a wholesale link or wherever you have your wholesale access point, hyperlinking that to your Faire Direct link. So that way it drives right to your Faire page and makes it even easier for retailers to make their purchase, all at no commission for you. Similarly, you can use our Faire Direct widget, which makes it a really seamless experience. And you can see here, it really stays into the style and flow of a specific brand. And what's even better is that the more you use Faire Direct links, the more we learn about who's actually using those links, we can better match you with retailers in the future. And with that said, I will hand it off to Karen to talk a little bit more about what to do during the shows.
Thank you, Sarah, and hello, everyone. My name is Kieran, and I work on the brand growth team here at Faire. Now that you've absolutely nailed shop readiness and increased your visibility, let's run through which tools you should be using to scale your business during trade shows. Firstly, an absolute essential for everyone on this webinar is to make sure you've downloaded the Faire app for brands. Here you can see a list of our features that we have. So for example, business card scanning to instantly create new contacts, capturing leads at no commission using your scannable Faire Direct QR code. Plus, we have a range of order management tools, including messaging retailers in real time, adding custom products, also writing orders on the go. I also just want to pause here to add a quick call out that the Faire Market promotion can't be matched on the brand app, but the app is still essential for collecting new leads and converting orders on the spot. We also have a range of free downloadable assets for you to help drive more orders. So firstly, on the left here, you can see a QR code leaflet. This is something I recommend you download, print out, put it in a nice frame, and put on your booth. It's got easy to read benefits and a scannable QR code again to encourage no commission sales. In the middle here, you can see a Faire Market visual that you can share on your own socials. A lot of brands that I speak to say their socials are more B2C focused, but you'd be surprised how many independents are actually following you. So I would recommend sharing this on your socials to ensure that you're telling your audience about one of the biggest sales periods on Faire. We also would recommend that you set your sales reps up so that they can fully support you at both the trade shows and Faire Market. So firstly, create your Faire Direct rep link so that reps can start driving those no commission orders. And secondly, you'll want to upload and assign existing retailers to reps to ensure future orders are automatically attributed. This is going to allow for clean reporting and ultimately save you time when those show orders start coming in. And finally, one of the most important pieces that so many brands miss out is making sure your reps know how to use your links, when to use them, and also the benefits that can be extended to their contacts. It's really a win-win. Let's pause here because I'm really keen to understand, how are you all thinking about your Faire Market promotion? We've got a poll that's popping up right now. And we'll leave this on for about 30 seconds to get your votes in. We can see here, many of you are doing the tiered promotion, which yes, I would recommend to encourage those higher spends from retailers. And I love that some of you are also planning to set this up this week. Don't forget. And what is interesting here is not many of you were I think about 10% had selected that you hadn't added free shipping on there. Given that 70% also are really interested in free shipping, that could be a good differentiator for you. So something to consider after the webinar. But now let's flash forward. You've had a spectacular market. You'll want to turn that show momentum into meaningful sales. But let's be honest, post-show, there are a lot of competing priorities, which is why something like automations can be a really valuable tool to streamline your communications with the right retailers. This is actually a totally revamped feature where we've actually doubled the amount of automations available for you. And these cover themes like drive reorders, convert leads, inspire loyalty. And brands that reconnect with their leads within 7 days of a trade show see significant uplift in conversion. So automations can be a really quick win to help your long-term wholesale growth. And just taking a little deeper look here, we can see some automation examples, which include some of my favorites: 5th order milestone and 90-day reorder. Get on those ones. But for extra personalization, you can use the custom name tags, which auto pull from your contacts list. Plus, we have a shop now button for a clear call to action. So don't forget about automations, because on average, our automations see 8 times better click-through than a general brand sent marketing Faire email. Would love to now hand back over to Sarah to lead us through the much anticipated brand panel.
And I would love to bring on both Kristin and Kyle and chat a little bit more about markets. And to go ahead and just give a quick introduction to both of our guest speakers, I want to first introduce Kristin, who is from the Buyer Side Chat. She hosts an amazing podcast that I listen to myself, and it is fantastic. And she also has over 18 years of corporate retailer buyer experience, so she knows the buyer perspective extremely well, and has spent 7 years actually owning and growing her own e-commerce business. So she also knows what that looks like on Faire specifically. So I'm really excited to have Kristin here with us. In addition to her, we also have Kyle from Totally Bamboo. He is the VP of Marketing and has over 15 years experience growing houseware brands specifically. For those who are unfamiliar with Totally Bamboo, they are a vast collection of bamboo-made products, from cutting boards to utensils to organizational tools, and they have a lot of great products out there and have been extremely popular on Faire, joining in 2020, which Kyle helped onboard, and actually have seen over 47% growth year over year in terms of markets. So let's get started, and I'd love to jump in. I'll start with you, Kyle. Now that you've gone through many Faire Markets since 2020, I'm curious, based on your experience, what are your absolute must-dos that you and your team think about and evaluate as you go through your kind of like checklist, if you will, for Faire Market and getting ready for trade shows?
Yeah, I'd say kind of the most important factor is really listing optimizations, which you touched on, and kind of cleaning up your brand shop and your product pages. That's really your face to the buyers. So not just for market, but year round. That's really what's going to drive your success on fairs, how you're presenting your products to potential buyers or existing buyers. When you're looking at your listings, definitely take advantage of the product title. That's going to be what's going to drive discovery and help with click-throughs. Make sure that your product title, you have up to 60 characters. So make sure that you're taking advantage of that and describing your product in a very clear way that's also including any relevant category terms for that product too. So, if your product has multiple ways of being described, try to work those into the title too in a way that makes sense. So that way you're hitting on all those different potential ways that customers may be searching for your product. An example from our category there would be, we sell cutting boards that also double as serving boards. So charcuterie boards are also a very, very highly searched term in that category. So we try to work in the term cutting board and charcuterie board all within the product title to make sure that it's, you're hitting on both of those uses. The product description, you've got 3,000 characters there too, lots of real estate. It's a great way to incorporate other, relevant terms for that product or complementary terms too, items that, may be used with that product or different uses for that product. Make sure that you're hitting all of those. But don't just stuff them in there too. Make sure that you're writing it in a way that's, describing to your potential buyer, why their shoppers are going to want to purchase this item. What's it going to do for them in their home? Why is it a great gift? Include anything that may be seasonally relevant too. So, if it's something that's great for Mother's Day, make sure that you're calling that out and lead up to Mother's Day. If it's a Christmas related item, call that out and lead up to Christmas. And you make seasonal shifts as well. So that way you're taking advantage of those shifting search terms throughout the year. And also the product image too. People react to images, and your main image is going to be what's going to drive clicks the most when it's showing up on search results. We found that, a nice thing about Faire, unlike some other online marketplaces, is that there's a little more flexibility in what you can use for your main image. And we found lifestyle images really resonate. So make sure that you're using a nice lifestyle image if you have that available. Shoot it in a way to where it's still really clear that your product is the star of that shot. Don't overcrowd it with additional accessories or anything else. But just showing the product in a way that looks in a lived-in environment just kind of helps to make that product resonate a little more and create a little more intrigue to get that click. So that way that you can get somebody there and then convert them. Outside of optimizing those listings too, setting up collections is a great way to organize your shop as well. Having a collection for bestsellers is a great way to introduce new customers to your line and what they may want to focus on first. A collection for new items is a great way to just sort of organize all those in a clear way where shoppers can come in and see what may be new. You can look at organizing by category as well. So if you have different product categories, you can group those together. And also if you have complementary items that go together too, that's a great way to sort collections as well. And a nice thing about collections too is you can then include all of those in your email marketing too. So you can direct buyers directly to those collections. So it really helps for a nice holistic message when you're highlighting any of those collections through email. And speaking of email too, I mean that's a huge mover for us. It's a way to stay top of mind with your buyers throughout the year. We're regularly in contact with our customers throughout the year, and especially in the lead up to markets. But yeah, it's a lot of times it's interesting sending emails out. You typically don't actually sell what you're highlighting in the email. A lot of times, you're just kind of letting buyers know that you're there and getting them to your page, and you'll find that it's just driving sales across your catalog. So it's important to keep a regular cadence for email. In the lead up to the show, we get a little bit more of we kind of have a playbook that we've used that this works really well. Once Faire adds the market lists to your shop page, that's something that shopper or buyers can go on and add your brand to their market list. So that way you're in their market plan. So you want to start highlighting that once that's available. So one thing that we do there is we send out an email letting our customers know that we're participating in the event. We don't actually reveal the promotion yet at that point, kind of creating a little bit more of a draw on it. But it's good to let them know that you are going to participate, and it's a way to encourage them to add you to their market list, make sure you're a part of their market plans. And, it's funny, we were actually a little hesitant to do that at first, kind of worrying that, buyers may see that, there's a promotion on the horizon. I'm going to wait on placing an order. But surprisingly, we haven't really seen much of a negative impact from doing that. We've seen a pretty regular order cadence up to the event still. And then we've just seen great growth during the markets. It's a great way to kind of, expand your results during the Faire Market. And then typically a few days before the market, that's when we'll do the big reveal of our offer, just letting people know what they can expect to save during market, kind of a way to build that excitement up as you're getting closer to the market. And then with Faire having insider access early, it's great to segment your emails by that too. So letting your insider customers know, hey, they've got that early access on that early day. Send an email that day. Let them know they can shop first. They've got first dibs on your deals. Sending that out has been really helpful. And then on the day of the market for everyone else, send that launch email out. Let them know, hey, it's time to save. Get your order in now. Inventory is going fast. Create some sense of urgency there as well. But and then we've typically done sort of a last chance email on the last day as well, letting them know that their chance to get deals is winding down. Take advantage of it now. And during the market too, we've also seen a lot of success with using direct message tool. Right before the market, it can be helpful to reach out to your VIP customers, let them know, make sure that they're aware of the deals that are coming. During the market, make sure that you're staying on top of that inbox too, answering any questions. You want to make sure that you're not losing out on any potential orders during this real high velocity event. So it's really important to show that good customer service to your existing customers and new customers too, so they know they can trust your brand a little more. And then after the market, we've used that tool as a way to thank any new customers as well, and to that's one thing with a digital market. It's a little different than an in-person market. There's no face-to-face meeting or handshake after the deal. So that direct message thanking them for their business and welcoming them to buying your brand and letting them know you're there can really kind of help to solidify that relationship digitally. And then in terms of promotions for the event, we've had our most success with a tiered approach, where we look at kind of a lower initial offer that's just slightly above our average order value. One thing about all these promotional levels too is Faire offers matching up to 5%. That's amazing. Make sure you're offering at least that 5%, so you're taking full advantage of Faire matching your offer. Having a 10% initial discount is huge. And we've usually done that lower tier just above our average order value. That way it's not too big of a barrier entry to smaller shops to place an order or new customers to test out your brand. But it is still kind of helping you pump up your average order value a little bit. And we've had a mid-tier offer that's slightly higher. Typically it's been about 50% higher than our average order value, just to try to entice some of your larger customers to place a larger order during the event. It's a great way to kind of get some larger volume orders. And then we've had a third tier. It's sort of an aspirational tier almost, where we have a huge discount at a higher level. You're typically not going to get a ton of orders there. It's usually just a handful of orders, but it's a great way to really goose your average order value for those customers that can place those larger orders. Assuming it makes sense from a margin perspective for you. But taking this approach has led us to have about a 50% higher average order value during market than we do outside of market. So it's really worked well in not only capturing a large volume of orders, but also capturing a large volume of orders that are a little higher than we typically see.
Kyle, that was an incredible list of things to do and what to tackle when it comes to Faire Market. So to recap, 100% focus on the foundations. You echoed a lot of the product listing importance and making sure that those are really speaking to the retailer and meeting them where they are and where they need to be when selling to their customer. Secondly, email marketing. I think you just truly set up everyone for success with that slow drip campaign of how to approach Faire Market and when to release your specials and how to really tease it out and get folks excited. And then thirdly, with promotions, thinking about the tiered approach, I love how exact, like the 50% higher than your AOV, and actually making people, incentivizing folks to buy a little bit more than normal, and reaching for the stars with some additional high tiers. So I think all of that is extremely insightful. So I hope everyone had their ears open for that. And in terms of thinking about just trade shows as well, I'm curious, what has consistently driven the most meaningful conversations for you kind of after. So like, let's say we do all this prep, whether it be Faire Market or a trade show, what helps you drive more reorders and loyalty in the long term?
Just really staying on top of those relationships. I think the automations, from a Faire perspective, have been really helpful in terms of being able to, stay in touch with those customers after, a period where they may need to reorder. One thing that's been really helpful from the automation standpoint too has been requesting reviews. That's huge in terms of adding some social proof to your brand on Faire. So having an automation in place now to ask for those reviews has been really helpful in terms of us getting additional reviews. I think, just reaching out to customers whenever you can, staying top of mind with email marketing, and also, reaching out to them through direct message too. If you haven't had any reorders, maybe reach out, see how your brand is selling for them, see if, they need any support there. Staying in touch, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think it's so important and very human. And I think people appreciate that a lot these days. Thanks so much, Kyle. I'm going to flip it over to Kristin to talk a little bit more about the retailer perspective. And I know you have a lot of juicy insight here, Kristin. So specifically, I wanted to get a little bit more of an understanding from your perspective and what you've kind of seen, how retailers are prepping for Faire Market and how far in advance are they doing this? What does it actually look like? And what are some things that maybe stand out to retailers when they're going ahead and building carts, et cetera?
Yeah, well, I'm so happy to be here, and I'm having so much fun looking at the chat off to the side. I'm like seeing lots of familiar names, so this is such a fun conversation. So really it depends on the size of retailer that is shopping. So on Faire, you mostly have small to like mid/larger independent retailers, right? So speaking specifically to that, the mid to larger size are probably 60 to 90 days out in terms of their preparation, maybe a little further in advance, depending on how with it they are. But those early days on the earlier side, it's things like figuring out kind of aesthetically what you want your floor set to look like what's the vibe of that delivery. And then as you get closer and closer to market, they're really landing, they're open to buy, meaning understanding how much investment they have to spend on inventory, and then drilling down to, okay, are we buying reorders for our best sellers? How much of that is taking up our spend? How much do we have left to test out new fun ideas? How much do we have for each different category that they're buying into? So they're really slicing and dicing their inventory plans. And the last final 1 to 2 weeks, particularly before Faire Market, so i.e. right now, they are going through and they're looking at the brands that are participating in the market, and they're starting to figure out their buys. So for 2 to 3 months leading up to it, they're really figuring out what are they looking for overall, what's their spend, and then they just continue to drill it down in the funnel. So right now they're putting product in their cart, or they're using the fun kind of Pinteresty type boards on the back end, favoriting things and building out their assortment. So whenever market day one hits, they're ready to place their orders and they're not scrambling. On the smaller side, meaning smaller/newer, more green buyers, they are likely buying closer and planning closer to the market. As they get more experience, they'll probably do it further out, but they might not have that ready yet. So they could be anywhere from 30 days to the week of, or just buy that day, just oh, I like this, I like this brand, I'm going to test them out. And so I think it really spans, and I think it's important to understand on the brand side who you're targeting, what types of retailers you're really targeting, so that you can kind of match your conversations, your pitching timing, all of that based on what retailers you're pitching to. So if you're starting to talk about the market too soon and you're really focused on those really new, small, independent boutiques, it might be a little too early for them. So just kind of thinking about that is, I think, really helpful.
Yeah, that's a great point in terms of thinking about segmentation within who you're actually reaching out to and when, and also a really solid point in terms of retailers are starting early. So in terms of getting your shop ready, that is something that should be priority one right now, and making sure that things are ready to shop and ready to convert for a retailer that may be coming to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in terms of for instance, searching or filtering or things that you're when you're going through a product listing, is there anything that really stands out when it comes to I for sure this is a green flag for me, or maybe even a red flag if I'm looking at a product or a brand?
Yes. So, I would say the biggest thing, and Kyle was touching on this in terms of like how you're presenting your brand is so important. The thing with Faire specifically is that you are taking away all but one sense, meaning they only have their site. They're buying with site. The buyers are product experts just like brand owners are, right? So we love materials and we understand the nuance behind product development. So they are like expert shoppers. So they really want to understand the detail, and also they want to be like visually pulled in. So the best thing is making sure you have really well done photography, and you don't have to have a huge photo shoot to do that. But really making sure that your product doesn't look like all AI mockups, because you could easily fall into that trap of potentially looking like an AI product when you're not. So just be cautious with that, but really having that lifestyle photography as well as really crisp, clear with the neutral background, a mix of both, that automatically makes a brand stand out and just look more polished and professional. Even if you're new to wholesale, you want to look like you're not, right? You want to look like you've been doing it for years, because you'll figure it out, right? The second thing is just when you land on the brand page, and I think Sarah, you might have started to talk about this, but when you land on the brand page, you want it to be seasonally relevant. So if I'm hopping on a page and there's still old holiday collections, or the copy in the product, if I'm just searching for a product and I land there and it's speaking to holiday or Halloween, and I'm buying for spring, summer, it just makes me think, oh, you haven't actually touched this in a while. And so those of you that have really extensive catalogs, you might not have time to go through and touch every product, but definitely identify your top 20% performers and all your new products, obviously, and make sure that that copy is and imagery are up to par, seasonally relevant. The keywords make sense to what they're buying at that time. Those are the two things. If something looks outdated or doesn't look from an imagery or a video perspective, doesn't really engage or tell me what I need to know, I'm probably going to move on to another brand, because it is a saturated market.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I think it's so helpful and relevant. I really do highly reiterate the importance of transitioning your products. Even if you don't have seasonal products, you can still do a seasonal transition with your product listings or your title, whatever it might be. One of my favorite kind of examples is, let's say you have a chili powder and it's great for your winter chili, ski season, whatever it might be. But then as you transition into summer, maybe that reframing turns into perfect for the summer barbecue or your rib recipe or whatever it might be. So there is something that you can do with virtually every product. And I think that can also happen, Kyle, with lifestyle images, as you mentioned. Like, how do you actually transition the meaning of a product and make it visually compelling or text compelling when it comes to someone shopping and browsing?
Yeah. And when you like, just to note on that, I think there's oftentimes the question of how much newness do I need to constantly be bringing in? And that constantly delivering newness isn't right for every brand and every type of product collection. And so this is how you can refresh your catalog, refresh and have the algorithm kind of sparking for you, because you're updating the keywords and you're making the imagery feel fresh and new without necessarily having to add a bunch of new products.
100%. So another plug for the SEO checklist if folks haven't checked that out yet. And I'll wrap up with kind of like a final plug to learn a little bit more about maybe what your go-to takeaway, if you had to give advice to a brand who maybe this is their first market or their first trade show season, what is something that you might share with them? And I'll start with you, Kyle, and then we can end with Kristin.
Yeah, I mean, I think, if it's your first market, I think it can be kind of surprising how much of an impact the market can have. We've seen that just one market can be more than a full month's worth of revenue if you pull everything off right. So it's really important to get everything buttoned up. If you don't have that big customer base, make sure that your listings are presenting well, your brand shop's presenting well. Take advantage of promoted listings too. That's a great way to get additional traffic to your shop. What's going to drive the success there is really going to be making sure that your listings and your page are compelling and look good to get that initial order converted. But yeah, I think I didn't really touch on promoted listings too much, but that's been a fantastic tool for us too. So that's a great way to get some momentum going on Faire if you don't have that yet.
Absolutely. That's a great tip. And especially if you've done that foundational work, really, it's like if you want to be maximizing that visibility, make sure the visibility is for products that you've done work on. And then Kristin, I'd love to end with a note from you.
Yeah. I mean, aside from just making sure you've got everything optimized and you're using all the tools at your hand, I think the biggest piece of advice I can give is what you do off the platform is just as important as what you do on the platform. And so you do need to be nurturing retailers off the platform and bringing people to your page and developing those relationships. Faire is an amazing platform and opportunity for growth, but you have to make sure that you're also doing those touch points off the platform, also leveraging email and segmentation. And that is how the most successful brands, I think, cut through the noise, meaning there's so many emails going out, there's so much going on that are landing in your retailer's inbox. And those that really make a concerted effort to establish relationships and nurturing off the platform are the ones that see the biggest success during market week, from what I have seen.
I think that's a really great reminder. And I think through line through this entire session today is like attention to personalized outreach where possible and making people feel like it's an intentional moment for them to think about your brand and it feels curated for them. And then secondly, I'll just double dip on just spreading the word about your shop so you can get as much traffic to your shop page on Faire, is using that Faire direct link wherever and however you can on your website, in socials, and emails, both on and off Faire, are extremely paramount to being able to get as much reach and action on your page during these high volume moments. This has been so fun and such a pleasure. You guys are full of so much wisdom. So I appreciate you taking the time to be here with us today. And we'll kind of end the day with a little bit of some key takeaways for folks to think about as they head off into the rest of their day. Perfect. So as we end today's session, I wanted you all to think about a few things as you head into either your next trade show or Faire Market on January 20th. First is consider those retailer insights that I shared at the beginning when updating your shop this season. So those low minimums, landed cost, all of those insights in terms of what they're looking for are all really helpful for you and give you a bit of a leg up when it comes to thinking about markets. Secondly, is revisit your resources in the Faire Learning Hub for guides and more. We have so much information, including our market strategy checklist, which I recommend you checking out for sure. And then thirdly, ensure your Faire Direct tools are ready to go and easily accessible, speaking to all of the wisdom that Kristin and Kyle both shared. I really hope that you guys revisit that and see what you can do with your Faire Direct link. And then lastly, if you haven't already, make sure to set your promotion for the Faire Market today. Do it today, get it done, and get ready for an amazing Faire Market 2026. And with that, there's one more note before you all go. We would love your feedback. The more insight we have from you all, the better we can be at creating content that really resonates with you and meets your needs. So if you could take a moment to go ahead and take this survey, which we'll send out shortly right now. It should show up in front of your screen. Amazing.